Welcome to another episode of Mindful Mali with me, Mali Kaluve, a spirituality podcast focused on growth and self-discovery, a space where none are judged and all are welcome as we all strive to become better versions of ourselves. And I know it's been a while, but I am finally back, and if it is your first time listening to the podcast, I just want to say a big welcome. And for anybody who's constantly been listening to the podcast, I just want to say thank you so much for all the love and support. I really do appreciate it so much. And today's episode is coming from a place of observation from situations around me and even situations I've found myself in regards to conflict with other people. And the book I'm reading currently, which is How to Win Friends and Influence People, has played a big role in kind of collecting my thoughts in regards to conflict. As usual, whatever we talk about, our affirmations have to be in alignment with it. And today's affirmation is just one. I see things as I am, not as they are. And the reason why this is the affirmation I'm choosing to focus on, or the one that I constantly use in times of conflict, is because when you realize that we see things as we are and not as they are, and you become more conscious about that within yourself, when you start to get into conflict with other people, you not only recognize that you are seeing it from your perspective, which is objective, but you realize that the person you are in conflict with is doing it the same. Because what happens a lot of the time is when we get into an argument or something happens, we instinctively assume that the person knows that they're wrong because you think they are wrong, and you believe from your point of view that they have done something wrong, that they automatically should know that as well. That's not always the case. The truth is, the person on the other side, just like you, is seeing it from their point of view, and from their point of view, it is totally different from yours a lot of the time, especially when it comes to conflict, and therefore they're not seeing the wrong in the situation. Like, if I ask a lot of people, they always think they're right in situations, including myself. My first thought is always about how I am right and the other person is in the wrong, even though eventually you may come to the realization that, wait, I actually did something wrong, or I should not have done what I did or said what I had said. The instinctive thought is always that you're right because you were acting from a point or a level of your consciousness and your perspective, which is of course how we initially see things, instead of also seeing it from the other person's side. So there are two sides to this. Number one is how to better approach conflicts from your end, and also how to understand from another person's side. What I mean by this is, for the first part, is when you realize that you are seeing things from your perspective, what you would want to do is start to think and empathize with the other individual. How are they thinking? What might have my words, what might my actions have triggered or brought out in terms of the response they are giving me or the reaction they are giving me? Understanding that and becoming more aware of the fact that you are seeing things from one side now brings in the habit of trying to look from a holistic or a 360 perspective, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to the arguments or the fights or conflicts you have with other people. Therefore, you're not jumping straight into the anger. Of course, we're still going to feel the emotions we feel, but you're not reacting. You're now learning to respond a lot better to the situation because you're thinking about, okay, yes, I feel this way and this really upset me, but the other person does not see their wrongdoing, and I cannot always instinctively trust in the fact that their intuition or how they think or the way they operate is going to tell them that what they did or said is necessarily wrong. And once you move into that, I feel like it just gives you a more peaceful perspective because you also stop, again, like I mentioned before, over identifying with other people's actions or comments, because you realize that they're seeing it from their view. It's not always about per se you in the situation. It could also just be from their point of view. Now, I said there's two parts from it. Now here's the other part, and this helps a lot with learning how to deal with people, how to properly converse with other people. Once you understand that people see things from their perspective and people will instinctively view things as right, when it comes to a situation where you are trying to correct somebody and you come from a place of harshness and anger, just like you would yourself, they will most probably get defensive, and it triggers the aspect of, no, now you must see my perspective. You must understand that I am right and you are wrong. So it becomes more of a battle of justification from both sides, because when you're not conscious about it within yourself as well, you end up in this battle, which is what conflicts are and arguments are a lot of the time, of you just going back and forth with this other person about trying to justify your actions or them justifying theirs, instead of you guys coming to a solution. And that's why sometimes it's just good to take a breather, a step back. You hit the pause button and you start to have a conversation from a place of empathy. You're more likely to get another person's perspective or move past a situation when you approach it from that point of view, instead of instinctively just reacting. And our reactions, of course, are driven by anger. And then both of you are not trying to hear anybody's side of the story. And there you go. You have a situation where you both think you are right and no conclusion has been drawn, and the conflict continues endlessly. But when you start to develop that aspect or that view of, approaching people from a more empathetic point of view, and I'm not saying you're gonna be able to just, do the same thing with everybody. I do know, of course, there's situations where, I'm not even gonna lie to you, there's situations where people do certain things and it's just better not to even discuss it, approach it, no empathy, empathizing, whatever. It's just moving past it and leaving it there with the understanding that whatever they did or their actions are simply just a reflection of their consciousness. But just in terms of just looking at conflict or the issues we have with people, you just need to constantly be in reminder, and what I've just said, that you're seeing it as you are, not as it is. And they're also seeing it as they are, not as it is. And when you're able to understand that, not only in yourself, but in somebody else, it becomes a lot easier. And that's one of the beautiful things about self-discovery, or, when you're learning about yourself and becoming more self-aware, the beautiful thing about it is self-awareness also comes with the learning of other people. The more you learn about yourself and how you operate and your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, the easier it is to also understand how other people view things. Because when you realize just how subjective you are, you start to also realize just how subjective other people are. And therefore, when you're dealing with other people, you're viewing it from a perspective of, okay, I understand where you're coming from, or I realize the way you may be thinking because it's the way I think as well. The power in that is it grows our relationships a lot better. That's why I always say, the greatest service you could do for the people around you is learn more about yourself, become more self-aware, because the more aware you become of yourself, the better the relationships you're able to develop with other people become. But with that being said, I just want to say, be kind, be compassionate, be grateful, be loving, be caring, and most of all, take care. For more updates on the podcast, head over to them at Mindful Mali page and my personal page at Mali Kaluve.